Before building any Power BI report, you need a clear process. In this lesson, you'll learn how to start a Power BI project the right way, how to define the report vision, identify the KPIs your audience needs, and connect Power BI to real business data coming from systems like Excel, ERP, CRM, databases, and APIs. Let's dive in.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to create a data cycle. What is the right step-by-step way of using Power BI? And while I'm doing it, I'm going to answer some of the questions that you have said, at least provide you some perspective on how to approach these questions. And and please make it interactive, because if you have something, if you have a question that comes to your mind, feel free to unmute your mic and just ask a question at that point. Okay, so I'm going to start this. I'm going to start Power BI. You don't really have to follow me step by step at this point. Okay, and I also open this whiteboard. So step number one, step number one when it comes to building, completing a project or building a report or a dashboard, what is the step number one? You start with a vision, right? You start with an end goal. And it's like, what is the vision of the report? What is the objective of the report? Who is the audience? Correct? What insights do you want to offer? What decisions they will make from the report? And from there, you can decide, okay, to actually make these decisions and to provide these insights, I want to provide then these KPIs. Some people call it metrics or KPIs. And then how do you want to break down these KPIs? Do I want to break it down by time, or do I want to break it down by a specific category or a business unit? Right? You start with some kind of an end goal. You start with the vision. Okay, there you go. So once you have something like this, then you say, okay, to actually create this report, I need the data. The data comes from multiple places. If I go here in get data, so your step number one is to actually get the data. But the data does not come from one single place. When I click on this get data and I click on more, these are all the different connectors that Power BI connects to. Your Excel is the prominent one. The reason is because most of the systems and the softwares that we are using allows us to export an Excel file, allows us to export a CSV file. And hence, because we cannot connect directly to the system, we use an intermediary approach. We create this layer. So we do this in two steps. From a system, we go to an Excel file, and then from Excel file, we go to Power BI. Okay, let's see some of the common systems that we have here, and what are some of the solutions. Once you have this, your challenge is, you know, get the data. And now get the data or connecting to the data set is a problem, because we have so many softwares and so many systems available that companies are literally drowning in these bespoke and customized solutions that have been in their existence from such a long time. And these bespoke solutions do not integrate well with each other. Even when we have SAP and a different add-on of SAP, you have all these integration issues. It's a very common challenge that organizations face. So what are some of the common databases or systems or softwares companies use? We have ERP systems, enterprise resource planning systems. So some of the common ERP systems are SAP, correct? You have Maximo, you have JD, you might have Oracle, SAP being the dominant one in the market. Then you might have CRM systems, right? Things like Salesforce, things like HubSpot. And then, depending upon what industry you come from, you have very specific systems like, workforce planning system. So Aiden uses Pronto. You might have things like operation management system, HR management system, risk management system, finance management, budgeting management, and you can start to see how these number of systems starts to expand. And these systems do not necessarily talk to each other. Now, James might have some kind of a crocodile management system. Who knows? So you have all these different systems that don't talk to each other. A lot of what happens is in the background, most of these systems have a very consistent, or there are a few databases which are at the back end, something like a SQL Server or Oracle. So if within Power BI we cannot connect to a SAP from the front end, or through a, or from a system through the front end, I might be able to connect uh, with the data from the back end, because Power BI connects with SQL a lot more seamlessly. So that is one way. Now, what a lot of companies are doing to solve this problem is they're creating a centralized data warehouse. Now, what data warehouse does is they're going to understand the analytical requirement, and based on that understanding, they're going to import the data within a centralized data warehouse. And when they're importing the data, they are also going to clean it, prepare it, connect it. So they are doing a lot of the heavy lifting before moving it into a centralized data warehouse. If you have come across things like Databricks, as I was having a conversation, if you have come across things like Snowflake, so these are the data warehouse. They create this layer where the data is clean, transformed, enriched, and then I just need to connect to the data set, maybe do a little bit of a, you know, processing, because a lot of the processing is done, and all I need to do is I need to create the report from it. That's your uh, that's the idea of a centralized data warehouse. So step number one is getting the data. What are some of the other challenges that people might face when it comes to getting the data? As Jeff was saying, it's what if the connector does not exist? I have a very old system, and Power BI does not connect to it directly. Then what are some of the solutions? When a direct connector does not exist, how do you connect to Power BI then? What are some of the solutions?
Excel
Yeah,
refresh, refresh,
that is the most common one. One is you export to Excel, correct? And then you
or
can
CSV.
or CSV, and then you put all these things inside a folder, correct? And this folder actually becomes your like database, right? You actually create this database to which Power BI can connect. That's the most commonly used option across the businesses. But again, it is difficult to automate this, because every month you will have to re-export the files again and put them inside the folder. So there is some form of management and ongoing maintenance that comes with this option. That's option number one. Option number two is, and by the way, as I was having a conversation, you can automate this step by scheduling tools, right? Scheduling tools or batch import tools. And your IT would know, because with every system, you will have a tool where you can automate export of a report, and it will just get automatically emailed to you. And from the email, you can run something like a Power Automate, or you can create a script which moves this file into the same folder, same place. And from there, you can kind of just create your Power BI report. So by using some of these scheduling tools and scripting tools, you can automate the export of the report, and then you can also replace the report in the original place, so you don't have to perform the step. So that's option number one. Option number two, which is a little more sophisticated, is uh, finding other third-party tools. So for example, I have a small Shopify store, and Power BI does not connect to Shopify, and Shopify has a lot of data that I would like to analyze. So there is a company called Hive. Now, Hive can connect to Spotify, and Power BI can connect to Hive. So you can find these third-party tools that will create that layer, which will allow you to connect to your connector, and then from that you can connect to Power BI. It's worth exploring these third-party tools as well. Now, you might have to pay for a subscription cost that comes with it. And if you're working on government and big companies, it might be a challenge to just get these subscriptions, right? Because of these policies and overarching governance. That's the second option. And the third option is, as Jeff was saying, APIs. you can use APIs, and there is a connector within Power BI where you can connect to these APIs. Some of these tools and softwares will already provide you an API. Okay, use this API, and then you can use that API to ingest the data within Power BI. And if a system does not provide an API, you can have an in-house developer to create the APIs for you. Of course, it comes with developmental costs, and it might not be a suitable option for a lot of companies due to the associated complexity and the development associated with it. Okay, so these are some of the options that you do have. In my experience, speaking with different companies and who are doing Power BI on different levels, the most common options that I've seen is this one. But how they automate this is by using a scheduling tool specific for the system. So a tool will automatically export the files, will send it out through an email, and from the email, you can use a tool like Power Automate to automate the step as well. So it almost becomes automated. So it does not require some special tools and special softwares. You can use Power BI's ecosystem to do it. So worth choosing this option number one. But for most of the connector anyways, like SAP, so that's just step number one.